The FBI is sifting through tips to find out why a highly decorated Army soldier blew up a Tesla Cybertruck outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. A law enforcement source says the driver was Matthew Livelsberger, a Green Beret who was on leave from his base in Germany. CNN's Natasha Chen joins me now from Las Vegas. Natasha, what more are we learning?
Well, Jim, this is very shocking to the people who knew him, who've spoken to CNN. Someone who used to work with him said that he had advanced steadily in rank in the military to team sergeant and then second in command to the captain of the Special Forces detachment, and mentioned that his background in Special Forces and explosives seemed at odds with what happened here behind us at the Trump Hotel on New Year's Day morning, where the materials found in that Tesla Cybertruck were fireworks and other things that could have been purchased in retail stores. The investigators yesterday at a press conference talked about the relative lack of sophistication of those materials compared to the extensive background this person had in the military. He became a father in April of last year. CNN has reached out to his wife but has not heard back. His social media presence was sparse, but a relative of his did say that when President Trump was in office, he posted on Facebook saying that he had a lot of respect for President Trump, especially how he was helping the military. And so that relative believed that Livelsberger really loved the president, loved President Trump. And so there are a lot of pieces here that investigators are trying to put together. We understand that the Tesla company is helping out law enforcement here with trying to retrieve more data and potential video from inside that Cybertruck.
A mystery on the Las Vegas Strip as police search for why someone intentionally caused a Tesla Cybertruck to explode in front of the Trump International Hotel. Well, we have new details about that suspect. Matthew Livelsberger was an active duty Green Beret based in Germany, but he was on leave. A relative tells CNN Livelsberger was a strong supporter of President-elect Trump, praising him for helping the military. Now, investigators say they found Livelsberger's military ID inside the burned-out Cybertruck, along with 2 weapons, additional fireworks, his passport, an iPhone, and a smartwatch. And police used Tesla charging stations to track Livelsberger's movements before the explosion. They say that he rented the Cybertruck in Denver on December 28th, before driving through New Mexico and Arizona and arriving in Las Vegas just yesterday morning. Now, security cameras showed the truck pulling into the front of the Trump Hotel once before leaving and visiting other businesses up and down the strip. But an hour later, the truck heads back to the Trump Hotel, pulling into the valet area and parking before exploding 17 seconds later. Now, despite all of this evidence, police are still searching for why this happened. But investigators say they're aware that a Tesla Cybertruck exploding in front of a Trump hotel, well, it raises questions for a lot of people, doesn't it?
It's not lost on us that it's in front of the Trump building, that it's a Tesla vehicle, but we don't have information at this point that definitively tells us or suggests it was because of this particular ideology or any of the reasoning behind it.
Well, John and Jamil are back with me, along with Bishop Garrison, senior fellow and adjunct professor at the George Mason Law School's National Security Institute. Glad to have you here, Bishop. Thank you. I'm going to begin with you, John, on this, because you've got some new reporting on Matthew Livelsberger. Why would he have done this?
Well, this is the thing that Kevin McMahill, the sheriff in Las Vegas, and Spencer Evans, the special agent in charge of that office, and their teams have been poring over, which is get into the phones, get into the computers, get into the house. Are there communications with radical groups or extremists, right-wing extremists, foreign extremists, left-wing extremists? And that's what they're not finding. Are there connections or communications or associations with the New Orleans suspect who blew up, who had IEDs and did the ramming attack there? That's what they're not finding. What they are starting to see, though, are personal issues in his life, things going on in his family life that were problems for him, things going on in his Army life as a Special Forces Green of sadness about long deployments and being away. talk about PTSD, about the amount of violence that they're exposed to, the killing, collateral damage of non-combatants, civilians who were killed. These are things that affect a lot of special operators. So they are, as they're looking for connections between the New Orleans attack and this explosion in Las Vegas, what we're starting to see is the cases drifting apart instead of together. This could have been a organized suicide after a series of life-depressing stressors and a final stressor that might have broken the camel's back, where he wanted to go out literally with a bang in a symbolic location. What does that mean, Laura? Is he trying to say these are the problems that America's most elite soldiers are facing, and I want the new president to know about it? It's a bizarre way to deliver a message, and maybe that's a reach, but it's what they're looking at now, along with many other things. And, they're keeping an open mind because you don't know where the case is going to go.
We don't know, Bishop. We don't know what the connections, if there are any. We do know that there are some red flag, maybe coincidences, but whether they will turn out to anything, I don't know. But we do know this is somebody who is a Green Beret. Active duty, by the way. He had been awarded multiple medals. The ATF says the, quote, level of sophistication is not what you'd expect from someone who has all of these sort of accolades and training. But tell me, I'm picking your brain here. What does it suggest to you that this correlation between all of his training and the way this all went down?
Well, first and foremost, my heart goes out to the communities here, both New Orleans and with Las Vegas, because this creates so much tension, so much trauma for those individuals that are just trying to live their lives. Given that we know that he was Master Sergeant active duty with Special Forces, the operations tempo over the course of the last 20 years, when you talk about GWOT, when you talk about the global war on terrorism, has just been so high for these individuals, so much stresses. I myself served 2 tours in Iraq. I served with a great many Special Forces officers enlisted. I know just the pressures that they're going through, both while they're actively in combat and then back at home. When you come back and you have some of these added stressors that John kind of alluded to. The first things first, we need more information. We need to understand a little bit better about what was going on in his life, what might have driven him to this type of activity.
Why he was on leave.
Why he was on leave, why the Trump Tower, why there's so many different ways that he could have gone about doing this that could have made a bigger statement, that could have made more destruction, that could have made less. That he could have written an email, could have written a letter, or he could have had a more powerful explosive given his skill set. So we just don't know. And there are too many folks that are taking the threads of information we do have and going online and looking for some type of coordination or some type of connection between the two events that we've seen and everything else. And it's just going to create more misinformation, disinformation, and more terror. So we just need to kind of take a breath, let law enforcement do what they need to do, and we need to understand better about his life and what was going on. But knowing the amount of stress and pressures that we have these soldiers under, Special Forces operators, we should understand a bit more of what we can do to help that community and support them properly.
I certainly understand, I'm not having served, but I can appreciate the stressors. It's one thing to talk about what happened in Las Vegas versus what's happening in New Orleans and the loss of lives, other people who were killed as a result of it. But when you look at the psychology and you think about ways in which law enforcement is trying to investigate with an eye towards deterrence, what sticks out to you?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard, Laura, because you've got to figure out how do you identify these people. One, how do you identify them ahead of time, to Bishop's point? How do you get them the help they need before they turn into a terrorist in the case of Shamsudin Jabbar, where he's becoming radicalized, whether it's on the internet or elsewhere? How do you solve it in the case of Matthew Livelsberger, where he's going and putting himself in a truck and blowing it up with campfire gas and fireworks, right? How do you get ahead of that? How do you prevent that from happening? How do you prevent the radicalization and the activity that might take lives of others? These are very hard things. And then how do you harden our society against those things? How do you collect the right kind of intelligence? How do you identify lone wolf terrorists? We have an authority for lone wolf surveillance that's expired 4 years ago because Congress didn't act on it. We have 702 authorities, surveillance of foreigners located overseas, that's set to expire once again just in a few months. Congress may not reauthorize it. These are real challenges. Taking those tools off the table for our law enforcement, our military and intelligence communities is exactly the wrong thing to do. Congress is going to have a chance to deal with that and other issues going forward.